Now, this is a movie that makes me wish I saw it before yesterday, or I did my top 10 underrated slasher films now. Because this movie, one, is a great slasher film. It is awesome. And it is highly underrated and underseen. 1982's Alone in the Dark. Yes, not to be confused with the 2005 video game movie, most likely directed by Uwe Boll, but this is 1982's slasher film, Alone in the Dark. And wow. Yep, this was on the same playlist as The Mutilator and He Knows You're Alone. It's a big playlist called 80s horror movies. I was just scrolling through, and there's all these movies I've been wanting to see for a long time. And this was one of them. And Alone in the Dark, it is a slasher film. First and foremost, it is. But there's elements of psychological horror, elements of home invasion. It feels like they wanted to go that route, but they were just like, hey, slasher films are in, so we gotta do that. And it's got an all-star cast. I mean, of all the early 80s films, usually those movies have famous actors back when they're nobodies in their first film. This has well-established actors. Like, you have Donald Pleasance. Awesome. You got Dr. Loomis playing a psychiatrist, although not quite like Loomis. You have Jack Palance, who Oscar-nominated, Oscar-winning actor from decades before. He's the leader of the villains in this. He also played Carl Grissom, Jack Nicholson's boss in Batman before he became Joker, and then was killed by Joker. Then you got Martin Landau, who was in North by Northwest, bunch of movies way back in the 50s and 60s, and then won an Oscar in Tim Burton's Ed Wood for playing Bela Lugosi. So, I mean, you have a wow cast. I mean, two of those guys are the killers, Landau and Palance, and there's two other killers also. So, I mean, in 82, yeah, still part of the slasher boom when you have nobody actors, but these are well-established actors, and they do a great job. In fact, Landau looks like if you take Angus Scrimm as the tall man in Phantasm and the really old priest in Poltergeist 2, put them together, you kind of got Landau in this film. You also have Dwight Schultz, not Dwight Schrute, Dwight Schultz, who I guess he was Murdoch in the A-Team, but I never watched the A-Team. And this is just a very entertaining slasher film, and it is definitely in my top 10 most underrated, underseen slashers. And actually, for a while, I think this was New Line's flagship horror film, because this was 2 years before Nightmare on Elm Street. And I mean, to get the actors that are in it, and it did do well too. But I know shortly after they were in the poorhouse until Elm Street came out. I don't know what that is. Anyway. And the story's pretty simple, but it does take a while to get to the main event. So, now let's see here. So, Dwight Schultz plays this guy, Dr. Dan Potter. He's this young psychiatrist. He just gets a job at this mental hospital that's treated like a haven, run by Donald Pleasance, where it's like a mental asylum, but it's a haven. Like, it's very lenient. People can kind of do whatever they want. They're given whatever they want. Pleasance has very weird freelance methods of how to take care of the patients. And Potter is sort of more textbook. And we open the film, and he's kind of getting a tour, and the third floor is dedicated to these four guys. You have Frank, played by Jack Palance, who is a paranoid POW vet. You have Preacher, played by Martin Landau, who is this extreme, overly religious psychopath. Then you have the Bleeder, a serial killer. They call it the Bleeder because whenever he goes around killing, he gets nosebleeds, but he doesn't like to show his face. I see room for a twist coming up. And then the last one is Erlen. There's a guy named Ronald, or Fatty. He's an obese guy. Erlen Van Lith. He died in '87. He was also a wrestler. Oh, he was also in The Running Man. But he's a obese child molester, and he looks like a stereotypical obese child molester. But he also likes to break people, break him over his knee, his hands. Since he's the big guy and he's a wrestler in real life, he's the brute. He's the one that has to pick things up and break things. But anyway, they think Dr. Potter killed this other doctor, the guy that he replaced. When in reality, he just went to a different hospital and no one told them. And Dr. Potter's life is kind of weird. His wife is very free-spirited. His sister's kind of a hippie. They go to punk rock shows. His young daughter kind of talks back, is kind of snobby. And one night there's a blackout. And during this blackout, the 4 patients on the 3rd floor escape. And they go to Potter's house to kill him for killing the doctor. And, this is one of those movies where one of the very few slashers, like I would probably say other than like Maniac, Halloween, yeah, very few, very, very few, where it's not, I guess My Bloody Valentine, it's not about the kills per se. There's other things to admire. Like in Maniac, and Donald Pleasance and Jamie Lee Curtis and Charles Cyphers in Halloween, the performances are excellent. I mean, Jack Palance, Scene Stealer, Martin Landau, just, again, Poltergeist 2 Priest, Angus Scrimm, put those two guys together, make him play by Landau, great psycho. Even the child molester can be creepy to watch at times. Dwight Schultz is great just as, like, the straight-laced, like, I'm trying to solve everything, everyone else just calm down kind of guy. And it takes about an hour for them to get to the house and actually start doing stuff. We see some kills beforehand. And there's some creepy moments before that. Like, there's a part where when they first escape, which first they kill a guy, they kill an orderly before they leave, do get broken over the fat guy's knee, like Bane did to Batman, which is funny because Donald Pleasance's character's name is Dr. Bane, spelled differently though. Everyone's rioting and looting, and the 4 guys take a van, and the Bleeder takes a hockey mask. Not just any hockey mask, the Road Warrior style. And Friday the 13th, Part 3, came out in '82, and that was the one where Jason got his hockey mask. They were released 3 or 4 months apart, with Alone in the Dark first, so there's still some debate. I don't remember when the Road Warrior came out. I'll see when that came out. But there's been big debate on Okay, Road Warrior came out in 1981. Now, you ask me, they were inspired by the Road Warrior. Friday the 13th Part 2 is a 1950s Red Wing style mask, which I guess the writers or producers or whoever was a big fan of. So, and plus these movies are being made around the same time, so I doubt they, and plus one's Paramount, one's New Line, one's Coke, one's Pepsi. So I doubt they knew what the other one was doing. So if you ask me, Alone in the Dark was inspired by Road Warrior. Friday the 13th Part 3 just wanted to put a mask on him. They were a fan of the Red Wings, so they put a 50s style Red Wing mask on him. That's my piece on the whole hockey mask bit. But when the bleeder, the psycho in the hockey mask, he kills a dude. I mean, it's pretty bloody. This movie it's not flat out gory, but it doesn't have to be at all. The performances and some of the tension and just everything else that's going on makes up for it. A lot of other movies that are super gory, they're more exploitation because they have crappy story, crappy acting. Other than Maniac, which has great performance by Joe Spinelli and great gore. You have some tense scenes like the daughter's a babysitter goes to check on her because the mom and the sister get arrested for protesting at a nuclear power thing, and Dr. Potter's at the hospital. Okay, so there's a blackout. They all escape. He's at the hospital. His sister and his wife go to this protest or this demonstration. They get arrested. So he calls the babysitter to go check on her. When she does, she's asleep, so she just invites her boyfriend over. And this scene was in Going to Pieces, so I've seen this scene. There's a noise, so the boyfriend gets up, and then he gets grabbed and dragged under the bed. And then Martin Landau's under the bed. He's got this huge knife, and he's stabbing through the bed from underneath. And, the babysitter's like right here, and the knife comes up. Cool scene. Of course, she gets killed. But before that, the child molester was at the house with the daughter. And you had this tense scene of how he keeps trying to get her upstairs. And like, I'll show you how to make things out of paper upstairs. It's like, come on, cutie. And she's having her milk and cookie. And she's not super young. She's like 9 or 10. But, she's kind of giving him shit at the same time. He's just, so, he's just like, finish your milk and we'll go up to your room, okay? It's really creepy, and the scene works. And actually, 2 years later, Freddy Krueger was supposed to be a child molester, but New Line, actually I think it was more so Wes Craven. There was an outbreak of child molesters, so he's like, I'll just make him a child killer because this isn't going to be right. But New Line had a well-played, well-acted, intense scene with a child molester. And that was before the babysitter went over there. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but I just saw this for the first time, and it's really good. If I really like a movie or really hate a movie and I'm ranting, I kind of jump all over the place. And so, the cops are at the house when the wife and sister get out of jail. They bring a guy with them to give him a ride. The cops are there because, babysitter's missing, and one of the escaped guys was with our daughter. The guy that gave him a ride and a detective are invited to stay for dinner. There's a noise. The detective goes to check it out. He's killed with a crossbow because they take knives, crossbows, and guns when they went looting. And he's stuck to this tree. And you get this scene where Dr. Potter wants to go help him, but the guy that gave the mom and sister a ride says, no, we gotta look out for ourselves. So the camera looks out through the window, and he's still alive. He's up against the tree, his feet are off the ground, he's kind of looking at them for help, and it's kind of intense. I thought that was well done. Of course, he dies. And from there, it's them trying to keep the other guys out. The bleeder has run off, so it's just the other three. And, eventually they get in. They gotta fight to stay alive. I'm going to say spoilers here, even though I already gave away most of the movie. Because it does take a while. It takes about an hour before the whole home invasion stuff begins. But 1982's Alone in the Dark, definitely check it out. Even if you have to go to YouTube and watch it. If you like 80s slashers, but also just well-made, well-acted 80s horror films, definitely check it out. You won't regret it. So, and of course, the family fights back. They eventually kill the guys. Like the fat child molester gets a cleaver in the back, and then someone takes a bat to hit the cleaver further into his back. Landau, I don't remember how Landau gets killed. That's why I usually like to watch movies more than once. But Landau does get killed. And the doctor says Donald Pleasance does come to help, but the preacher hacks off his ear, and then he kills him. Like, Pleasance tries to tell him to recite the 10 Commandments, but then there's this psycho moment where he's like, and vengeance is something, then he does this Joker laugh. Landau is a great psycho in this. Palance goes from cool and collective and creepy to just outbursts, and he does that very well too. The doctor yells out the window saying, I didn't kill the doctor you guys think I killed. And eventually, it's just Jack Palance. He's about to kill the doctor, and then the power comes back on. And on the TV is the news, and they're interviewing that doctor, the one that they think was killed. Jack Palance sees that he's wrong, he beats up the TV, and then he leaves. So now you're probably wondering, well, where's the bleeder? Well, if you stuck around, then you saw the movie, so you're not wondering. But if you haven't seen it and you stuck through the spoiler warning, that twist, I thought about it, but then I thought this movie seems too good to stoop to that level. But they did do it, and I wasn't upset. The guy that the mom and sister met in met in jail, and then he gave them a ride, and then he's with them for the rest of the movie, is the bleeder. Because through everything, the sister's hugging him, and we just see up close of her face, and blood is dripping on her face. He has a nosebleed. That's when we learn he's the bleeder. I kind of thought about that because we see the bleeder run off, like right after they start looting. And it's like, well, when's he gonna make an appearance? How does he? Are we just gonna see him later on? I thought either we were gonna see him after the movie, like he's still out and about. But I thought maybe he is this guy. I mean, if it was any other movie, I would have thought, oh, it's that guy, for sure. But I thought this movie was, one, really good. And also, with the actors in it and the performances, I thought it was just going to be a better movie. And I didn't think they would stoop to that level. And even though they did, it was a twist that you could see coming, especially if you've seen a bunch of slasher movies. But I still didn't feel cheated. I didn't feel like my intelligence was insulted. I thought it worked. I thought it worked out great. And then Jack Palance just meets a girl at the same punk rock show that they went to earlier. And I gotta praise this movie. I really do. I mean, yeah, first and foremost, it is an 80s slasher, but it incorporated psychological horror, home invasion. It's got killer performances, great performances, especially for the genre. I mean, Donald Pleasance, he's always, no pun intended, a pleasant to see. Martin Landau, Jack Palance, they do a wonderful job. Even like Dr. Potter was good. It was cool seeing him as like the straight-laced guy. I don't mean like this, like yo. I meant like straight-laced, like tie. He's got like the tie. His wife and his sister are like these free-spirited hippies. So like their personalities kind of conflict. That's interesting to watch. It does have kind of an obvious twist, but since the movie is good, and if you've seen enough films, you know, okay, it's either going to be this really stupid twist I can see coming, or it's going to be something else. It was the one that you do see coming and is obvious, but it works out. Well written, well acted, it's got cool music. I really enjoyed this movie. I did. And I don't think either this or Friday, I don't think Friday the 13th ripped this movie off. I don't think they had a fight with each other. I think this went with Road Warrior, and they were just a fan of the Red Wings. I will say, I did hear about this. The scene where the sister's hugging him and his nosebleed is dripping on her. I guess it's how that movie Valentine from the 90s ended. I haven't seen that. I've skipped so many 90s slasher films. I mean, I've seen Scream, obviously Scream 2. I have seen Jack Frost. I did see I Know and Still Know What You Did Last Summer, years ago. Jack Frost I'll be doing for the month of December. Eventually, I'll have to catch up on my 90s slasher films, so I will have to see Valentine. I've heard it's bad, and I've heard other people say it's better than you think. It's better than a 90s slash film, but I've heard that's almost how that movie ends is a complete ripoff of that scene here. But anyway, I can't praise this movie enough. If the movie wasn't as good as it is, and also with the great performances, I probably would be bitching that it should have been gorier and it should have felt more like a slasher film. And I probably would have thought it was boring. But just everything about this movie works and is so well done that, like Halloween, and yeah, so like Halloween, it doesn't have to be gory. It doesn't. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I highly recommend it. Alone in the Dark is definitely one of my favorite underrated, underseen slashers. This movie was fun. It was entertaining. Everything about it was great. Definitely check out Alone in the Dark. 1982, not 2005. 1982. Thank you for watching.